Hi, everybody. Welcome to Busy Living So Bomb. Busy Living So Bomb. Busy Living So Bomb. And it's episode 206.
Wow.
206. We're in a different spot now, as everybody can see from where we were last week.
Just keep moving around.
We just keep moving around, keep getting busy, living sober.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about getting busy, living sober. And as we talked about the last 2 weeks, we were talking about step one.
Yes, we were.
I just want to, before we jump into step two, I want to reiterate again, I heard some great things this week, and since the week we were on, about how important step one is. Like, step one is the foundation.
Nothing happens without step one.
And step one can take you a year. I mean, we've talked about it in 2 weeks, and that's pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long does it take to pour the foundation of a home?
Well, it's a different kind of foundation, honey.
But I just like to use that as,
right.
If you don't have a solid foundation, you can't weather a storm.
Exactly.
And so weathering the storm and being able to bend and being able to deal with everything that comes up in life is really important. So being really aware of, of what step one is. And it talks about it. It's about 3 chapters in the big book. I don't care how you get sober. You could use yoga, you can use meditation, you can use many different resources.
There's definitely plenty in the big book about step one. There's no question about it. Because nothing happens if you can't, be part of, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. You can't really admit that. That's fine, but you're not going to be sober. I mean, that's the bottom line. Is it says, and I believe it. You have to be a frank admission without reservations. Yes, I get it, and and there's probably more than 3 chapters really, if you include the doctor's opinion, that really explains it. So yeah, but if you can't admit that, and truly, most people won't.
Yeah, and that's why I think that it takes so long. I think that this whole process, and I can't make this more important than I want to strengthen. I just want to make it like in firm letters or something, that admitting that you're powerless, admitting that there's something larger than you, and is so important. And that firm foundation is so important. And if it takes you a year, if it takes you 2 years, however long it takes you to get through step one and realizing I'm powerless, and admitted that you wanted to, that there is something greater than myself.
Which is step 2.
Yeah, we're at step 2.
We are. And it's ironic because, we've been talking about powerlessness, and one of the things it says, one of the lines that it says about step 2 is, a lack of power. That was our dilemma. And, and if we take a frank look at our lives, that's so true. So many things that, that I railed against, fought against, wouldn't accept, on and on and on, wasn't going my way, wanted to change it. I had no power in any of that stuff, and it's so simple. I just speak for myself. It's just as simple as like, I wake up tomorrow morning and I have a plan that I want to go outside and do something, and I wake up tomorrow morning and it's raining, and now my plan is crushed, but I allow myself to be crushed too. Now I'm in a bad mood, I'm unhappy, blah blah blah. Well, I can't fight the weather, I'm powerless over that, and if I could accept that fact, I'd be fine. But I don't always accept that fact about a lot of things in my life, So it talks about, we fought everyone and everything, and that was the truth, and with to no effect. That's the worst part. It just got worse and worse and worse because, when you try so hard to get everybody and everything around you to change, and it never does, it's very frustrating. And it's funny because the 12-step program that we subscribe to says the only thing that needs to change is you. And that seems like that would be pretty easy, right? That's like, where does that feel manageable? Oh, I only need to change me instead of everyone and everything like that. But then there I go again.
it's really hard because it's our ego, right? It's our
Exactly.
ego. And that's why I tend to write if I write, which, I don't really do. I don't really write what I have to do that day down in ink. If I were to write a to-do list, I would write it in pencil, because it is so important to be able to be flexible.
Yes.
And that's what step one did. It gave me the ability to say, okay, I'm powerless. I need to be flexible. I need to know that my ideas aren't always the best ideas, and I only can think of A and B instead of thinking of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, and then do it again, because we have no idea. We have no idea.
Exactly.
And so admitting that I'm powerless, that I want help, and willingness. We talked about willingness before, and having that willingness. And so then we get to this step two. And
why don't you say what step two is?
You can say what step two is.
Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
And I have a caveat that I want to say. If you were raised in any sort of religious, religion's kind of poo-pooed today. God's kind of poo-pooed today, but I believe that if you're really raised with some sort of religion, it kind of helps you with this a little bit. It helped me.
Certainly.
It helped me knowing that I had a God. I might not like the whole idea of like Jesus with the nails and the thorns in the head. That was always scary to me as a child. But the biggest thing for me in step two was saying, restore me to sanity. Well, wait, that has to mean that I'm insane.
Right. Yeah. That means you
have to I don't like saying that I'm insane.
No, nobody does.
No.
Nobody does.
People always want to say, I was normal. I want to be normal. I'm normal. Well, normal to me, I'm going to give my description of normal. Normal is a piece of Wonder Bread, right? It's a little square. It's got a brown little crust around it. It has nothing on it. It's just normal. That's just normal to me. And I'm not normal. I'm multigrain with many nuts in it and many berries and many seeds and lots and lots and lots. I've got lots of different things about me. Yes. I'm not normal.
No.
But that took time to get to that place that I had to be like, okay with the fact that I'm not normal.
Exactly.
I'm not a piece of Wonder Bread. And I don't think anybody is a piece of Wonder Bread.
No, I think the longer you live and the more you work spiritual programming, the more you realize that there is no normal.
There is no normal.
Because everybody does the same things, and it's the opportunity to try to grow and change is what we're afforded, and it's just what we do with it. So yes, I'm like you, that when I first looked at that step, I'm like, what do you mean restore me to sanity? Like, what are these people talking about? Like, they might be crazy,
but I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy, and and the fact is, I learned of all the craziness that I did, that I do, that I continue to do, and that I'll probably do in the future. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. So it's, for me, I believe that the insanity that I had to the first thing of insanity that came to me when I was working the steps the first time was like, all right, what was insane about me? What did I keep? So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So the insanity for me was that I would go and I'd say, I'm going to have one dirty martini.
Right. The insanity of the first drink.
Yeah, it was insane because I thought that I had control over it. But going back to step one, it was like realizing I'm powerless over this because I have a phenomenon of craving, right? So once I have a drink, it has nothing to do, because I'd be like, I could have one drink.
And normally it seems like you should be able to have one drink.
Right, but then I'd have 47.
It doesn't seem like a ridiculous thing to think you could do, but you can't.
No. It's it was and admitting that is like eating, and we talked about humility before, and we gave the definition before, but getting to that place that I could humbly say, oh my gosh, what I did was insane. It was insane. That I kept trying to tempt fate, that I kept trying to go and do the same thing over and over again. And I kept going out and I kept having the drink, and then I'd have too many. Then I'd wake up and hate myself. And it was a horrible, horrible, horrible cycle that I was in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about the second step, I think, is whether you're religious or not, it kind of makes it a little easier for me to at least to bite off of it to begin with. Was that I came to understand the insanity of the first drink, and I could see these people in these rooms that had gotten past that. They had definitely gotten past from the insanity of the first drink, and to me, they were that first power that was greater than myself. Because I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I never could do it. I could never figure it out. And it wasn't until I met these people and they suggested, why don't you try not drinking a day at a time, which I had never thought of, and it worked perfectly. It's worked perfectly ever since. There's been no problems with the first drink. So I was able to make them a power greater than myself for sure. Say, I understand. They know more than I do, and I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do.
Yeah, I believed that, and for those of you that don't know, I was raised, Irish. I was raised Catholic, and my father was Jewish, but I was raised Catholic. So I had, and I know a lot of people don't like religion today, and I don't want to go too far into the religious aspect of it, but more of the spirituality and realizing that spiritually in this room, and of course now with COVID, we don't go to rooms, right? We go to rooms on Zoom, but I don't go to rooms in person given COVID. So having that sense of like, well, how do I do this with COVID going on? And I have to say that, I started a meeting that happens every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. If you want to find out the information, it's under Morning Hope on Bizzy Living Sober. But, we've have a bunch of people that have gotten sober during COVID and they're working the steps. And it's been pretty impressive to see, because when you do identify with people that are similar, and I think that it's really that step one, which is like, okay, I'm powerless, and I've got to realize that I'm not that bad of a person, because I think that's a huge part of this. It's like learning to love yourself is number one for me. And we don't love ourselves, and when we can admit, all right, we're powerless. Okay, I got this disease. It's in my family tree. I got it. I'm definitely powerless. I still remember today, 14 years later, standing in that bar, having that first drink, and then waking up the next morning going, I did it again. So, and then realizing that's the insanity, right? Because I kept going to that same place. It didn't have to be the same actual brick and mortar place, but I went to that same place looking for the same relief inside of me. Like I wanted to fill that hole inside of me, that spirit that was spiritual. It was a spiritual hole inside of me.
Yes.
I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that anybody could really like me if I were just me. I didn't think that anybody could think that I was okay. But I didn't think I was okay.
Right.
So I had to fill myself, right? So I had to fill myself with this spirit, because that's what they used to call alcohol. I think they still do. They call them wine at spirit stores. It's spirits, right? It's a spirit. So I realized that spirit that we talk about in step 2, like realizing what that spirit is. And for some people, the spirit is just the sunrise, right? Some people, it's the spirit of knowing that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Some people, it's going into the woods and looking at the trees. That's the spirit for them. Whatever that spirit is, it's imperative to find something that's greater than yourself. And it can be the trees, and it can be the sun, and it can be the ocean. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be Jesus Christ. It can be whatever you want it to be. But I think finding that within yourself and having a guide, sometimes it's called a sponsor, sometimes it's called a fellow traveler, sometimes it's called a mentor, somebody to say to you that it's okay. And if it's me telling you it's okay, if it's the trees, if it's the bumblebees, if it's the birds, if it's the ocean, if it's the sun, just having something, if it's Jesus Christ, whatever it needs to be that for you personally. It's such a personal thing.
It is.
It's a lot of the steps are very personal, right? They're very personal because we're talking about raw stuff that happens inside of us.
I think, yeah, they're all very personal, yes.
Yeah, and it's really, I believe, it takes time to get to that place that first you're willing. You're like, all right, I'm willing to feel what step one feels like. I'm willing to take this embarkment to go on to step two.
Right.
And it takes time. And I can't reiterate that enough. I can't make that more important, that it takes time. And it's, I can say for myself, it definitely took longer than a year to I did the steps. I did them all very quickly in the first year. And I think I mentioned this earlier that I wanted to graduate from something summa cum laude, and I was going to graduate from this. And summa cum laude means, the top of your class, if you don't know. And I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to graduate summa cum laude. But to have these things, really have your head meet your heart.
Well, it takes a long time. There's so much that has to be worn away.
It's so much work, and I say work, and I don't mean like lifting things and doing that, but it can mean that as well. But it's internal work.
Yeah, I think for me anyway, the majority of the work is all involves letting go.
We're not there yet.
Well, you have to be. I had to let go of me just to get to step two. Every step is just wearing away at yourself.
Well, they change everything, right?
So, for me, you said willing, that was where I really had to be. My first willingness had to be willing to say that maybe somebody knows more than I do. Maybe I should listen to that person. And as I started to listen to that person, they talked a lot about God and a lot about higher powers. Now, my upbringing was a little different than yours. My parents were Christian, but not practicing Christians. And, so I didn't spend a lot of time in church. When I came in AA, I did believe that there was some sort of a God that ran the universe. My biggest problem that I had was that I couldn't understand, and it's because of my ego. Like, this God is so busy running the universe, how could he possibly have any time, to be connected to any individual at all, let alone me? Like, he's just like, if I was God, I'd be way too busy. They're like ants, it wouldn't matter to me. And but that was me. That was my ego that got, like, because right away I'm like, well, what would I do if I were God? Well, I'd be just like me, which was not good. So
it wasn't bad though. It was just where you were.
Exactly. And, and for me, what I love about, finally getting down with that step of finding a power greater than myself is now when I finally was able to do that, I actually had something that I could turn things over to. I could just say, take this, I'm struggling with this. And I could, eventually understand what the insanity was that I think they were talking about, which for me was, I really believed that, that I could make something happen. I really believed if I could get everybody in my life to do what they were supposed to, which is what I thought they were supposed to, then an outcome would be achieved that I wanted, that things would play out the way I wanted to play out. And I just had no conception that life just happens. And, I can't fight the tide. I can't fight the weather. I can't fight the moon and the stars and the sun, but I was willing to for a long time, to try to get it my way. And that was my real insanity in that step too, that I had to let go of.
And I want to backtrack with you on a couple of things, because I know your story so well. And so for one, you're very well read. We're at the top of your class, right? You knew, you had space and all that, right? So you didn't have that. You weren't spending every week at church. So that, which I was made to do, good, bad, or different. It just happened. I was made to do that every week. But for you, and coming in and hearing that, it took, because maybe, there was the universe and the stars, and what came first? Was it really evolution, or was it God, and all that transpired? And then, you were in sobriety for a long time, maybe even over 10 years, would you say? I think you're over 10 years when you realized this, right? About God? Well, not only about God, but like that wanting to be the puppeteer, like wanting to be the person, like.
Oh, yeah. That's step 3 that we're getting to. But yes, it took me, yes,
But you're the insanity that you kept going and wanting to make all these
Oh,
people in your life.
absolutely. And I could only see like I could only see what I could see, you know. So I mean, we'll talk more about that in step 3, you know, because step 2 really was, you know, for me was being willing and then finding this power that was greater than myself. So you said I was well read, and I had I'd read a lot of, I mean, I'd taken a lot of science classes. I'd read a lot of books on science. You know, I'd read a lot of books on space and on evolution and Darwin, and I especially had read a lot of philosophy, and I really was like I was a big believer in the human intellect, that the human intellect would conquer everything. You know, it talks about me in the literature, and you know, so I really had a hard time to let go of all that, because I thought, like for me, I thought, okay, so you want me, what you're really doing is you're saying, JF, take all the facts, and these are facts, right? Take all the facts that you have and all the knowledge that you have and throw it out and believe. We want you to believe in this thing that's like a fairy tale. Like you can't,
like Santa.
You can't prove it. You know, there's no facts. There's no nothing. It's just straight up faith. Well, that was a tough thing for me to find, was faith. You know, very tough thing for me to find.
Took you many years.
It did. Took me a long time. It took me a long time to find faith, and but then it took me even longer to, you know, to let go of myself to faith.
Yeah, it's this is all so. And again, if you're out here and you're listening and you're like, I'm in this, and I kind of understand what you guys are saying, but you know, it's easy, but it's hard.
Well, I made it all so complicated, you know, because that's my towering intellect and my giant ego. That's what it does. It makes everything really difficult. And I mean, you know, what I've learned is, and I'll say that word over and over and over again, it's just willingness. All you have to do is just be willing. If you can just, you don't even have to believe. And that's the part I didn't get. Like, I didn't have to believe. I just had to be willing to believe. And now you're like, well, this is like some kind of BS semantics, JF, isn't it? That you're throwing at me. And that's what I thought. I'm like, these people are so full of it. Like, they're using semantics and blah, blah, blah. But I just didn't get it, because I made it all so complicated. But all I had to do was I just had to, it was so simple. I had to make that image, say, maybe there's something or someone that has a better idea than I do. And that's all the willingness that I needed, you know, from there. That was the mustard seed that the faith sprung from. But I didn't get it. I just didn't get it when they kept saying, you just have to be willing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to believe. You know, you don't have to believe. And I didn't. You know, my first sponsor was great. He did me the biggest favor in my entire life, because he asked me, you've heard this before, but he asked me this question. He said, do you pray? And I said, no, I don't. And then, instead of saying what I would have said, which is, why not? He said, do you think it would hurt you? Well, I couldn't. Why not? I could have argued with him forever, right? But I couldn't say anything other than, no, I don't think it would hurt you or hurt me. And he said, then fine, then just do it. I want you to pray every morning. I want you to just ask God to keep you sober every morning, and then pray every night, and thank God for keeping you sober. So just do it. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in anything. You just do the prayer, say the prayer. And, you know, that exercise, which I still do, was the exercise, along with just the willingness to believe that, like, Pete was a guy, like, maybe Pete has a better idea than I do. Just that little bit of willingness. Well, from there sprung faith, you know, and from there sprung a relationship with the power greater than myself, you know, who I pray to, and much more than those 2 little prayers on a daily basis, you know, all the time. And I'm so grateful for that relationship, you know, because it has made my life so much easier, because it turns out that a lack of power, that was my dilemma. I had absolutely no power whatsoever. And I'm lucky that I got connected with something that has all kinds of power. And all I have to do is let myself go to it.
And I think it's interesting, because I want to bring this up. I'm not as intellectual as you are. I'm going to say that. I am not well read. I am not, I'm kind of, I want to, I'm from, and I don't want to say this for everybody that's from the Midwest, but I'm from the Midwest. I'm apple pie. I'm baseball, the Cardinals. And I am naive. I'm naive in a lot of ways. I like, and I've said this many times, I like Tinkerbell. I like Santa Claus. So for me, when they said, all right, were you insane? And I said, no. And then they said, well, when you did this and you kept going out and you kept drinking and then this would happen, is that insane? Because you were doing the same thing over and over again. I was like, yeah, I was. And they said, do you think God can restore your sanity? Do you think God can help you get there? And I was like, yes. So for me, it was a lot easier. It wasn't as much that as hard to fathom, because I was like, I believe that God created the stars. I believe that God created the moon. I believe God created everything. I believe he created the flowers, everything else. So if God could do that, then he could definitely restore Elizabeth to sanity, and she wouldn't have to be so, I wouldn't have to be so insane anymore.
So faith, I mean, you had a faith.
I had faith but since I was a little kid.
You had a faith when you came in.
I had a faith when I came in.
So would you say that, so maybe what they did was just help you find a faith that works?
It helped me have a faith that works that I could rely on, because for so long, it was so, I had so many voices in my head. There was so much noise, right? When I came in, there was so much noise and, so many things going on and so many battles that I wanted to fight in my head, right? Like you were talking about, like so many battles that I was like, I was divorced. I had 3 little kids. I had no money. I had all these crazy things going on in my life. And it was the noise. And I just get to that place, like, it's going to be okay, Elizabeth, because I have faith. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'd be like, okay, I've never gone without a meal. Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. God has me. God has me. Like, I've never gone without heat in my house. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I've had to sell things so that I've heat in my house. I've had to do certain things so that I could be okay. But I always had that faith. So I came in knowing that blind, like, it wasn't so hard to go to that place of going, you're insane. Yeah, that was insane. It was insane that I kept picking up and I'd end up doing drugs and doing things that I wouldn't normally do. That was insane. And is there a power greater than you? Yeah. I knew for a fact that there was power greater than me. Did I have to say what it looked like? No. Did I have to go to all, like, I didn't have to figure it out. Like, I just went on blind faith. Like, I've had blind faith, because it's going to sound insane, but like the Santa Claus thing, like, I love the spirit, like the spirit. I've always, as a kid, my whole life, I've always had that, like, Santa comes, and it's not Santa coming to the house. It's just the spirit that comes around the house, and the warmth and the food and the joy and all that comes every Christmas. And even if there were people hungover, and even if there was drinking going on, I mean, there was always still this blind yumminess, right? It was yumminess that felt happy.
I like that word.
Yumminess. I just made it up. And that gave me faith. And that was like, all right, that's faith, and that's Santa. And, you know, and then like the tooth fairy, all those, I could go on with each person that, you know, the tooth fairy and the Easter bunny and all the rest of it, but it always gave me joy, you know? And so that God was what I felt brought out everything. So it was easy to go to that place of going, I'm insane, because I keep picking up my drink and I keep ending up in the same place. So I don't want to be insane anymore. First, I'm powerless. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I know this: if I pick up a drink, bad things happen.
Yep.
And that was the easiest. That was the easiest. And so I dumb things. And again, because I don't know if it's great because I'm not as smart as you, because I could be, you know, I could be able to dumb things down, but I have a huge heart and I have a huge spirit, and I have this huge ability to go, you know, God, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Even if sometimes I didn't believe it was gonna be okay. Deep down inside, it's getting that heart to meet your head. And I talked about it earlier. And it's so close, right? It's only a couple inches, right?
Sure.
But it's so long.
Absolutely.
To really feel it.
And it's so different from feeling it, from thinking it. And it's good for me that you know, what one of the things they said was, and I really didn't know what they were talking about at the beginning, but I totally understand now, is they said you cannot think your way into right feeling, but you can feel your way into right thinking.
Elaborate on that more.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, so what they were telling me was just like, let it go, JF, you know, walk away from it. So, you know, a couple things, you know, like I said before, like in step one, like I had tried everything that I could think of, but I'd never thought of abstinence. So I never tried it. Like the thought never occurred to me, you know? So that was the whole new thing for me. And that's the thing that worked. Right. So then in step two, I couldn't, you know, when they're talking about a power greater than me, you know, they said came to believe that a power greater than yourself. Like it's not, I just had never thought about that. I'd never thought about, is there a power greater than myself? But like I'd never thought I am the greatest power that there is either. You know, I just went through my life doing what I was doing. So when this was presented to me, I just started thinking about it, you know, and that's just a bad thing for me when I started thinking about things, because I always seem to be like, if I'm trying to understand it, and I believe about myself, like if I can understand something, then I can make it work the way I want it to work. That's the bottom line for me, you know, and that's why I just have to let it go, you know, you just have to feel it. So I did what I was told to do, and the feelings started to come in, you know. I didn't think my way into a relationship with a power greater than myself, but over time I felt it, you know, and I really did. I truly felt it. And I felt it in, you know, observationally in my life, especially when I would look back at a like a difficult time that I would have to go through. It could have been, you know, a sick family member, or maybe a funeral, or whatever it was, you know, a difficult thing that I would go through, and I would get through it. And I would realize once I got through it, once I got to the other side, I was like, wow, I just did that whole thing, and I got through it. And I didn't think, not only did I not drink, I didn't even think about drinking, you know, like I just got, and that is not me, you know. So that was an observational thing where I realized, like, oh my gosh, because I'm doing what I was told to do, I'm getting this relationship with this thing that's making my life so much easier, you know. I don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. This thing just gets me to the other side and takes care of it. So that's how my faith came, you know. It definitely came over time, and it definitely came because I was able to see these things were happening to me. It was wonderful.
It's a wonderful thing,
mm-hmm.
being able to have this relationship. It's an amazing thing. It's something I cherish a lot.
Well, it is. I mean, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me. Like when you're trying to run the entire universe from, you know, your little office that you have, that I have, it's exhausting. It's really hard because nobody does what they're supposed to do.
Well, I don't even know that there is like a supposed to.
Well, this is in my world, in my worldview. There isn't.
That's the difference. Isn't it so funny? And we're married and everything, but we're so different in so many ways.
So it took me a long time to understand that what you just innately knew, like there is no supposed to. You know, people just do what they do. Like that's something that I do for me, like because I'm the judge, right? So it's always in my judgment. You should do this. That's my judgment. I don't know what you should do.
And judgment, it just gets you nuts.
Well, if I'm going to be really honest, like I have no idea what you should do. I know what I did. I'll tell you what I did. And this is what happened to me when I did it. But I have no idea. If I told you what you should do, I'm not being truthful because I don't know what you should do.
Right. And I can say, and I'm going to put this actually as being a mom for me, because that's like my biggest job is being a mom. So when my kids were little and they'd be like, well, Mom, this is what I want to do. And I never really asked them what they wanted to do because I'd be like, how am I going to ask them what they want to do? They're 10 or they're 5 or they're 2 or they're 10 or they're 12 or they're 14 or or they're 16, or they're 18, or they're 24. And you know, like, what do you want to do? Well, the reality is that I barely know what I want to do at 50. One, almost 52.
We'll leave it at this.
I'm getting there. I'm getting close. Actually, by the day it's almost here, I'll be 52 on Monday. But anyway, but asking them what they wanted to do and knowing that I really didn't know. But the only thing that I could share with them was that I had life experience. I'm not smarter than anybody. I'm not smarter by any stretch than anybody, but I'm an observer in my life. I've always been an observer. I'm not an observer in the reading sense. I'm an observer as like I watch what people do. Like actions speak louder than words. My mother used to say that all the time, and she was so right. Actions speak louder than words. And when you watch someone, it's so much different than hearing what they say. It's how they act. It's how you act. So acting into right thinking is what you said, right? I have to act my way into right thinking, right? So acting like, okay, I'm going to act like I was insane. I'm going to act like there's a higher power. And first I'm going to act it. And then if I acted it long enough, it's going to, my head's going to meet my heart, right?
I think so. Yeah, I believe that.
I think that's true. I think that's so. And when you see things and you're like, wow, I've been I'm not going to talk about letting go yet, but if I'm going to believe that it was insane, and you know, when you stop drinking and you're like, I don't crave alcohol anymore. That's so weird.
Isn't it?
It's so weird. Like you stop for a certain amount of time and you wake up in the morning, you're like, wow.
I didn't think about a drink yesterday.
I didn't think about it drinking. You know what? I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I have so many friends that say to me, I'm friends that are alcoholic, I have friends that aren't alcoholics. I have friends that are alcoholics, but not in recovery. And then I have friends that are in recovery. And all these people that I've talked to, so this is where I get my knowledge, is from watching these things. And when in doubt, you say to somebody, especially in their 50s, right? And they're like, I haven't been drinking, and I have to tell you, I feel fabulous. I wake up in the morning, I'm clear-headed, I don't have a headache, I feel really good. And I remember everything I did last night. That feels even better. Wow. And then after time, you realize one day, it's like when you have a headache and you take aspirin, it goes away, and you didn't realize, oh my God, my headache went away, but your headache went away.
Right.
And it's true. Like,
you can never say my headache, I can tell you exactly when it went away.
Right. You have no idea. No. You're through the day and you're like, oh, I did have a headache, I think, at some point today, but I don't know when it was. And I'm not good at days or times, so I never know what day or time it is. But you do. He always knows what day or time it is. Even if he doesn't know, he'll like guess, and he'll be like totally on time. I am the other way. I'm like, no idea. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't matter.
To be retired.
To be blonde hair. To be, many things. But it's been a gift. And so getting to that place of step 2 and realizing, all right, am I insane? That's number 1. Do you believe what you've been doing is insane? Think about it. If you've been drinking a lot or picking up drugs a lot and doing the same thing over and over again.
I can tell you the people in the rooms are pretty good at convincing you of that. But
if you're sitting at home by yourself right now and you're going, am I? This makes kind of sense. Is it insane that I keep going back and picking up one drink and I end up having 47?
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem. It's a problem. If you wake up and you're like, why did I do it again? That will at least help you.
Well, that's the most frustrating thing about it, right? Is that you didn't mean to do it. It wasn't your plan or your intention to have it happen. And it just, darn it, happened again.
Because we got to go back to step 1 here with being powerless.
Yep.
And that phenomenon.
Oh, we're talking about the cha-cha.
Yeah, I'm all about the cha-cha. We'll get to 3 and we'll talk about the cha-cha. But if you know anything from dance class, it's forward, forward, back, back, forward, back, side, kick. And the cha-cha.
Wow.
Yeah. I had lots of times of doing that. So lots of training with the cha-cha. I like to dance. So we'll talk about that later too. But getting to that place that you realize you're powerless. I'm powerless. I'm insane. But something out there's got to help me.
Yeah, and it's, I was thinking that you could be one of those people, sort of like I was like, like I don't believe, but I want to believe. But I don't believe. But I want to believe. And they're like, All you have to do is just want to. That's fine. You're there. That's it. That's good enough. That's your start.
And if it even be like, if you think back to when you're a kid, you really, even if you saw your mom and dad putting the presents underneath the tree, you were like, but I still believe that Santa's there. I know Santa's going to come.
I never saw them do that.
I didn't either.
No.
I got up early in the morning and would go look and see, and there was always presents. But
and somebody had taken a bite out of the cookie.
Yeah, like, and somebody had done, and I had done that for my kids too.
Uh-huh.
So if their kids watching, don't listen to us at this point. Well, you guys, this has been
probably not too many people that actually believe in Santa that watch this on the other
I hope not. I hope not. And this was an awesome podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
It's really fun.
Nice to spend
Sometimes
time with you.
it's nice for me to get him when he's finally here. It's the hard part is getting him here. Hence, we're going on. This is coming up today, pretty late this Tuesday. We're late today, but we did it.
We did it.
We did it. Thanks.
All right, people.
All right, people.
Remember, all you have to do is just want to believe. You'll be fine.
Just want to believe. Just want to believe. Just want to believe, and go to that place that goes, okay, I am insane, and it's okay to be insane. It's okay not to be normal. I'm not normal. Here you see not normal, and here's definitely not normal too. So please reach out with questions, comments, anything to Bizzy, B-I-Z-Z-Y, at the A with the S circle around it. What's it called? I think
it's called
at Bizzy Living Sober, and that's BUSY.com. And BizzyLivingSober.com, and it will give you all the information there too if you want my email address and all that. That is on my website. And until next time, keep getting busy living sober. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. By the way, we're on YouTube. That's a big place for us, is YouTube and iTunes and Spotify. So subscribe, and then you get to see what's going on every day.
Nice.
We might even have more days. Might go from 2 to 3 days. It's just a little tease right there. Like they do that on TV. All right, everybody. Until next time, keep getting busy, living sober. Mwah. Bye, everybody. Love you all. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.